Uh, Thank you again for joining us here at this Homeschool Tracker Getting Started webinar. My name is Dave, and we're going to go ahead and get started here. First of all, I just want to say thank you so much for joining us. I know there's a lot of other things you could be doing on a Monday night, but we just greatly appreciate you spending some time here to learn a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker and how we can hopefully help you be more efficient in your homeschool. My name is Dave, and I am one of the owners and operators of Homeschool Tracker. And it's really our mission to not only create tools to help you be more productive in your homeschool, but then also to give you the resources and the training to use those tools effectively. And that's what webinars like this are all about, just really giving you those resources and hopefully training you on how to use homeschool tracker effectively in your homeschool. So just a few housekeeping notes. We are recording this, and we will be sending a recording of it out to everyone who had registered for the event as soon as that recording is available. Typically, we go for about an hour, and then we also have plenty of time for questions. So, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to click on that Q&A button in your viewer and submit those questions, and we'll spend as much time as we need to at the end of our demo to go over any and all questions you may have. So I'm going to spend just a few minutes here talking a little bit about what we're going to talk about tonight. The first thing is we're going to talk a little bit about where to find help. As you may have noticed, Homeschool Tracker is a really deep and feature-rich program, and so there's lots of different places where you might want an additional help, and so we'll show you how to do that. We'll also spend a little bit of time doing just a tour of the interface. We're going to talk a little bit about subjects and courses and the difference between the two. Then we'll spend time talking about assignments, which are really the heart of all your record keeping within Homeschool Tracker. We'll discuss lesson plans, which are a really popular feature. We'll talk a little bit about reports. Then we'll discuss workflows, and what we mean by that is just really how you use these tools on a day-to-day basis. We'll give you some examples for that. And then, like I mentioned before, we will spend some time in Q&A. So let's go ahead and get started talking a little bit about where to find help in Homeschool Tracker. So first thing I would recommend is what you're watching right now. These training sessions are really helpful. We do them every other week on Monday nights typically. And if you want to register for another one or ever watch a replay of one, you can find that just on our website at homeschooltracker.com. Go to the support tab here and then just click on Training Center. And you'll always see the next upcoming training event, which you can register for, or you can watch a replay of a previous event. These are the Getting Started series, which we're talking about right now. But we also recently did a webinar just on lesson planning, where we did a deep dive into lesson planning. So if that's of interest to you, definitely check out the replay of that lesson planning training session. The other place I would recommend is our Getting Started tutorial videos. So we do have a 11-part series of Getting Started videos. And if you just go to our help site at help.homeschooltracker.com, you can find those there. Each one is just a few minutes long, and altogether it's about maybe a half an hour or so. But this is a great way if you just want to jump to a very specific section that you might want to brush up on. You can certainly do that by watching one of these short videos. And then additionally, this help site, help.homeschooltracker.com, is really comprehensive in terms of every page and every feature within Homeschool Tracker is outlined here. But one trick I like to show folks is that since this help site is more of a reference guide, it can actually be more helpful to navigate to it from Homeschool Tracker itself. So anywhere within Homeschool Tracker, for example, if I just go to the calendar view here, if I have any questions about the screen that I'm currently on, I can just click on this help link up here in the top right, and it'll take me to that corresponding page in the help documentation. So this page here has anything and everything you would ever want to know about the agenda calendar view, including links to other sections that it might reference. Another thing you can do is just search within the help site itself. So if I just search for day off, for example, I can find the corresponding page for how to enter in days off within Homeschool Tracker and just jump to that section. So lots of information here. Certainly, don't be afraid of that help button, as it will take you right to the spot where you might want to reference if you're looking for more information. And then the last thing I would recommend is email. So you can email us at any time, support@homeschooltracker.com. And we monitor that email box all the time and typically respond to each and every email within 1 to 2 business days. if you've ever emailed us in the past, you probably got a response even quicker than that. So definitely don't hesitate to email us if you have any questions at all. And we do absolutely respond to each and every email. Okay, so let's dig in here to the interface tour. So I wanted to spend a little bit of time just talking about the interface of Homeschool Tracker and the different menu items that you might have. So when you typically open Homeschool Tracker, you'll be presented with this menu. And the menu is broken up into a few different sections. So up here on the top left is the schedules and planning section. This is where you'll find the agenda, both in calendar view and list view. And the agenda is really your to-do list or your students' to-do list of all the things that they need to get done in a particular day, including chores and appointments. That's where all of those items live. And you can view that either in the calendar format or in a list format. This is where you'll find your lesson plans, which we'll talk about a little bit later. It's also where you'll find the shared lesson plan library. Below that is the student section, and this is where you will find things like the student list, where you can create or add, remove, edit individual students. You can set their grade level. You'll also find the grading overview, which shows basically all of the grades for that particular student over a given time period. This is where you'll also find the lesson plans and presets page, which we'll talk about a little bit later, and the transcript supplemental area. This is where you can add additional information that will be attached to their transcript, like activities and achievements, standardized testing, that sort of thing. In the middle section here, this is all of your reports. So all of these items here are reports that will be generated as a PDF file, which you can then save, email, or print out. And you'll find everything from attendance reports, report cards, transcripts. They're all right here in the center section. To the top right is what we call the manage list section. And it's really more of a maintenance area of the program. It's something that you should definitely be aware of, but you probably won't be going in and out of there each and every day. And that's why we typically refer to it as a maintenance or settings area. And we call it manage lists because each one of these items, activities, chore names, courses, etc., they're essentially lists. So you would have an activities list, a chore list, a list of all your courses, a list of all your library items, and that's where you can go in and edit those lists and either add or remove or edit those items, which will then be referenced in your assignments in the agenda or your lesson plan items. So that's where those all are. And then in the bottom right is the Your Account section, and this includes the program options, your school profile, like the name of your school, address, that sort of thing, as well as the subscription and users section, which is where you can update your subscription information, your billing information, as well as create user accounts for your students or other teachers. So that's just a quick overview of the menu within Homeschool Tracker. There's a lot of different items in here, and it can actually change depending on your program options. But this is just a quick overview of that, and we'll dive into a lot of these different sections throughout the presentation tonight. Okay, so subjects and courses. So it's important for us to spend a little bit of time to talk about the difference between subjects and courses as it pertains to Homeschool Tracker. So subjects are really broad areas of study. These are things like math, language arts, history, or science, kind of those core subjects that you might remember from school. Um, Typically in a Homeschool Tracker account, you would only have anywhere from 4 to 10 subjects. If you have anything more than that, then you might want to start looking at how you're organizing things. But really, subjects are just these broad areas, and they're really containers for what we call courses. Courses are just like you would imagine. It's a specific course or a class, and these are very specific areas of study in your homeschool. Things like Algebra 2, Composition 1, Physical Science 1. They all fall under the umbrella of a subject. So, for example, Algebra 2 would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of math. Composition 1 would be the name of a course that would fall under the subject of language arts. And Physical Science 1 might fall under the subject of science. So let's just take a look at how that plays out within Homeschool Tracker so you can get a sense of that. So from the Manage List section of the menu, I'm just going to go to the Subjects list here. And you can see that I only have 4 subjects. These are the 4 default subjects that come kind of preloaded in your account. And you can see there's not really a lot of information here because, as I said, subjects are just really broad. They're really like these umbrellas, right, that contain courses. And it's really a way for you just to kind of organize your courses. It's a good way to think about it. So, for example, if you look at history, you'll see that it has a status of core. There's one course within it, and it's currently active. I could go ahead and double click and make any edits to that if I'd like. But really, not a lot to do here, because really you're just kind of creating this way to organize courses into these larger subjects. If I wanted to create a new subject, I could click on Action and choose Add, fill this out, and I would create a new subject. But let's jump into courses. So if I go to the courses list, you'll see already that I have more courses than I did subjects, and you'll see that there's a lot more information here. So, for example, let's just look at this one. This is Ancient History 1 is the name of the course. The subject for Ancient History 1 is History, and there's some more information here on whether it uses credit units, how it's calculated, the grading scale, etc. If I double click on this, I can edit that. And if I wanted to create a new course, I could just go to Action, Add, and I'll go ahead and create a new course called Reading 1. And for subject, this will be language arts. So I'll start typing language arts. And I'm going to pause right there because you probably noticed that this popped up that says language arts. And you'll find these throughout Homeschool Tracker. This is what's called a smart entry field. What it does is as I'm typing, it's essentially searching the subject list, that list that we were just looking at a few minutes ago. It's searching that list for anything that matches what I'm typing. And it'll pop up, so that I can just kind of quickly fill that out. If I didn't know the name of the subject I wanted, I could just enter a blank space in here and it'll show me a list of all the subjects and I could select it that way. And then there's a few other options here. These are a little bit more advanced, so we won't talk about them tonight, but things like how many credit units this course might be worth, the grading scale, if it uses weighted grading, that sort of thing. So I'll go ahead and save this and then refresh. And so now you'll see I have a new course called Reading 1 that belongs to the subject language arts. So there we go. We just created a new course called Reading 1. So if we jump back here, just a few things to watch out for. So I would definitely recommend not naming your course and the subject the same thing. So for example, I would not want a course called language arts that belong to the subject of language arts because that would just be confusing. I wouldn't necessarily know the difference between the two. And if I was selecting one, I could run into issues where I might be selecting the course or the subject and I wouldn't know which one is which. So definitely remember that you want the name of your course to be more specific than the subject. So that's why I called it Reading 1 was the name of the course and language arts is a subject. You could also do things like freshman biology, is the name of a course and that belongs to science or even biology. But definitely try to make the name of the course much more specific than the subject. The other thing to look for is that if you see a slash, that shows the break between subjects and courses. And I'll just show you what that looks like. If you don't see that slash, then that means you're just looking at the subject. So if I jump over to the calendar view really quick and I'll create a new assignment here. And for subject course, this is a smart entry field. So I'm just gonna hit the space bar. And you'll notice that I have history, and then I have history / ancient history 1. Then I have language arts, and then I have language arts / grammar, etc. So when you see just one name here, for example, history, if I select that, I'm selecting the subject of history. I'm not even selecting a specific course. And that's totally fine if that's how you want to organize it. But if you do want to use courses, you're going to have to select a specific course. So history / ancient history 1, that shows the subject history and then the course ancient history 1. So if I select this, now I'm selecting ancient history 1 as the course. And that's what that slash designates. So just being aware of that, I think, is certainly helpful. Okay, so now let's jump into assignments. And assignments are really, these are all of those schoolwork tasks that we give our students. And assignments don't necessarily mean homework. They don't necessarily mean, the traditional sense assignment. It could really just be anything that you want your student to complete in a given day. And that's something that you may want to track over time, whether it be adding a grade to it or something that you want to mark complete or incomplete, depending on how you are running your homeschool. So assignments, we call them the heart of all your record keeping because they're really at the center of everything. And assignments can come from a few different places. So they can be created individually or in a series. They can also come from lesson plan items. And lesson plan items, we'll talk about those in a little bit. But once they lesson plan items go through what we call the scheduler, they can become assignments. And essentially, you create assignments out of lesson plan items. And these assignments, once you start using assignments and you start marking them complete, or you add grades to them, so many different things can happen. So from all of that data, you can then create report cards and transcripts. If you have auto attendance enabled, it can generate attendance records for you. You can create the daily task list, which basically gives you your agenda for the day or the week, and so many other additional reports. And so, really, that's why we call this the heart of all your record keeping, because all of the information that's contained in these assignments is what we use to fuel all of the other reports that you might be interested in generating. So this is what a basic assignment entry form looks like. And each assignment requires that a student, a subject course, and a date be filled out. So you would select your student, you would select the subject course, and then set a date. Everything else is optional. However, there are a number of these fields that you likely will want to use. So things like activity. This could be something like a lesson or a test or a quiz or a field trip or a lab, anything that um, would describe the activity within the assignment that you may want to track over time. Resource, this would be an item in your library that you've designated a resource, so a book or a DVD or something like that. PLC, that stands for page lesson chapter. So this is where you might put information like, chapter 2, pages 25 to 33. That could go there for your student. The time. So if you wanted to set a time, a start and end time, 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., you could certainly do that there. If you don't set a time, that's totally fine. It will just end up as what we call an all day item in your agenda. And that just means it can be done at any point in the day. Points earned and possible. This is where you would add your grading information. So the number of points possible and the number of points earned would go there. Time spent. This can be calculated automatically based off of the start and end time, or you can enter it manually. Reschedule. So if you want this to be able to be rescheduled using the rescheduler tool, you would have that checked. And then the completion boxes for teacher and student. So your student can mark something complete, which will just be a flag in the system for you to know that they've marked it complete, for you to then address it as a teacher. And then for you as a teacher, when you mark it complete, that puts kind of a stamp on it that says, okay, this assignment was done. And now if there's grades involved or anything like that, then it'll start to count towards their overall grade. And then the directions field, and this is a big kind of rich text editor where you can add lots of information about the assignment there. But again, all of these other fields here are optional. The only required fields are student, subject, course, and date. And so as I was saying, that complete button, when you mark that complete as a teacher, if you're using auto attendance, then attendance is recorded. Those grades are generated, time spent can be calculated, and from all of that information, all of those reports that we talked about can then be generated. So let's do a quick demo here of assignments. So we'll create single and multiple assignments. We'll add grades to them and mark them complete. And we'll do that both from the calendar view and the list view. So if I jump over here to Homeschool Tracker, excuse me, I'm just going to go to the calendar view here. And I'll go ahead and click on Add Assignment Single. And so this will be for my daughter Campbell. And let's pick a subject course. So we'll go ahead and choose Ancient History 1. And for activity, I'm going to call this a lesson. Resource, again, these are all smart entry fields. So resource, I can hit the space bar and pick a book out of here. PLC, I'll just call it chapter 2. And then the date, let's do it for today. And we'll have it start at 9 a.m. and end at 11 a.m. And we will say that this is worth a possible 10 points. So I'll go ahead and save it. And so there it is right here on the agenda. Campbell, Ancient History 1, lesson. Now, if I wanted to take a quick glance at it, I could just click on it once and I would see that, okay, this is chapter 2, this is the book that she needs, and then these are any additional information It even pulls in a screenshot of the book if that's in your library. And there's some quick buttons here. I can mark it complete as a teacher or a student. I could delete the item. Or if I click on more, I can go in here and edit it just like we saw before. So let's say I went ahead and I assigned that to Campbell, and now she's gone and she's completed it. And I wanted to go in now and add grades and mark it complete. Well, I can just go into it here and I'll give her her grade. Let's say she got a 9 out of 10. And I'll go ahead and click the teacher complete button. And as I did that, you'll notice that the grade here was updated to show 90%. And if I go ahead and click save, there you go. Now, a few things happened. You'll notice that this got a little bit dimmer, which just shows to me that it was completed. And this Campbell present showed up here. And that is an attendance record because I have auto attendance enabled. And what auto attendance does is it basically says that if you have marked an assignment complete on a given day, then it's assuming that your student was in attendance that day. And so it can create an attendance record. And that's an optional feature you can turn on and off in the program options, but it is a little handy so you don't have to create those attendance records on your own. Okay, so that's it. That's how I would create a single assignment and grade it and mark it complete. And now, when we think about workflows, a lot of folks do this each and every day. So you could imagine every morning or perhaps the night before a school day, you go in and you create a few assignments for the next day. You go about your day, and then at the end of the day, you can go in and add your grades and mark things complete. And just do that every day, and that's totally fine. You know, the beauty of Homeschool Tracker, I think, is that it's really kind of this open platform. And depending on how you like to run your homeschool and how you like to be, you know, what levels of organization you like to have, whatever it might be, you can choose how you like to use it. And so this is just one way. You can add single assignments all day long and you know, go about grading them just like this. This also works really well if perhaps you are an unschooler, where you don't necessarily have an agenda set for the day. You might go about the day and kind of be more student led, or depending on how you like to do things. And then at the end of the day, you could kind of go in here and log all of the work that you and your student did, kind of in retrospect, and kind of create assignments for all the work that you did after the fact, and then give them grades if you like, or mark them complete. And then Homeschool Tracker really becomes more of a logging tool instead of a planning tool, and that's totally fine as well. So either way, you know, the platform is here for you to use, and ultimately with the goal of keeping track of your records so that, you know, at the end of the year, at the end of the quarter, you can easily create a report card or a transcript. So now let's go ahead and try creating multiple assignments. So I'll go ahead and click Add and choose Assignment Multiple. And I'm brought to the Add Assignment Multiple, or the Add Multiple Assignments wizard. And so each of these tabs here at the top is a different section of this kind of wizard that we go through. And so I'll go ahead and start here. So first of all, I can select my student or students. So if I have more than one student, you can actually create assignments for all of them right here, which is kind of nice. And then I'll go ahead and fill out these details. So this is for Ancient History 1, and we'll do lesson again, and go ahead and pick a resource. And then, excuse me, I'll set, you know, some start and end times here and say these are all worth 10 points. And then I'll go ahead and continue to day and date. And I'm going to go ahead and set a start date of tomorrow. I'm going to choose this option for continue creating items until PLC pattern is exhausted. Okay, and then I'm also going to, for the day options, I'm going to say I want it to happen every day. And I'll go ahead and continue to PLC. Now, PLC, again, it stands for page lesson chapter. And I could have the same page lesson chapter for all of these assignments, but rather than do that, because typically with PLC, it's probably not going to be the same every day. It's probably going to increment somehow. So it might go chapter 1, then chapter 2, etc. So I'm going to do what's called a one-part auto increment. And so we have these tools here where you can have it automatically increment for every assignment it creates. So I'm going to go ahead and say that this will be, the leading text will be chapter. And we'll say starts with chapter 2 and ends with chapter, let's say chapter 5. And we'll increment by 1. And if I click on this, I can see a quick sample, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's great. I can also do a two-part auto increment or a three-part. And what that does is, for example, if you wanted it to say chapter 2, lesson 1, chapter 2, lesson 3, or lesson 2, chapter 2, lesson 3, etc., you could certainly do that. But I'm just going to do a one-part auto increment for now. And I'm going to choose continue to preview. So from this preview here, I can see just at a glance what I'm about to create. And so here are those 4 assignments, chapter 2, 3, 4, 5. And they're going to start tomorrow and end on Friday because I said keep creating these until the PLC pattern is exhausted. And so the pattern is exhausted when I got to chapter 5 because I said I wanted it to end with chapter 5. So I'll go ahead and select all these and then just choose accept selected items. There we go. So now if I look at my agenda, I can see I have that assignment we just created a few minutes ago, and then I have the 4 assignments that we just created all at once. So chapter 2, chapter 3, 4, and 5. So as you can see, in just a few clicks, I was able to create 4 assignments and have them automatically increment over time. And so again, when we think about workflow, you could certainly do this every week. It could be a Sunday night and you want to set up all of your assignments for the week ahead. You could create multiple assignments for each course, however you like, and quickly get your entire week's agenda all set up for your students. And then at the end of every night or at the end of the week, for example, you could go in and add grades to these and mark them complete. But I'm going to show you how to do that from the agenda list view. So actually one more quick thing here on the calendar view. So as you can see, typical calendar, I can switch to day view, week view, or month view. These blue tabs here at the top are filters. And so I can choose, which students I want to view, what types of items I want to view. So for example, if I didn't want to view the attendance records, I could turn those off and that would go away. I can see which subjects and courses I want to view, what completion status I want to view. So lots of different filtering options here. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to the list view so we can see what this looks like from the list view. So the list view is exactly what that sounds like. It's basically the exact same agenda, but instead of a calendar, it's in a list view. And that gives you a few advantages in that right away you can see that I can see a lot more information at a glance. So these columns here, instead of having to click on each one of those items to see that information, I can just see it right here. So this was that first assignment that we created. And then these are those 4 on Tuesday through Friday that we created. So I can see that this first one we had already given a grade for, was marked complete. These 4 are each worth 10 points, but I haven't completed them yet. So really, a lot of power right here just in viewing it in a list form. The way that this is set up is here on the left column, excuse me, in this green area, these are the filters. So if I wanted to change the date range, I could do that here. Which students I want to view, types of items, completion status, etc. These columns, you can sort by these columns. So if I wanted to sort by date, I could click on this and sort ascending. I could sort descending, or I could turn the sort off. Additionally, you can group by columns. So for example, if I wanted to group by type, I could just grab this column title here and drag it up to this section above. And now I've grouped by type. So all of my assignments are here together. My attendance records are here together. This can be really helpful if you have more than one student, you could group by student. And then, all of Campbell's items would be together and all of my other students' items would be together too. If I want to turn that off, I can just click these X's here to clear those. And then lastly, there's also a search box here. So if I have a huge list of items, I just want to find something really quick, I can just search and it would apply that search. And so now I'm viewing everything that has lesson in it. To turn off a search, I can just click this green lesson search here and it goes away. But part of the real power of a list view is that we can edit now more than one item at a time. So if I wanted to edit those 4 assignments, I could just select them and choose Action, Multi-Edit. And let's say I just wanted to change the time of those. I'm going to change it from 9 to 10 to 9 to 11. I'll go ahead and save it. And so now you'll see that now they're all updated 9 to 11. So that was obviously really quick. I can just edit more than one item at a time. I could also select them all and choose Action, and I can mark them all complete from right here. Or I could also do that from the multi-edit. So let's say I wanted to give them all a grade at this point of 8 out of 10. And I'm going to go ahead and mark it complete. I'll hit save. And there you go. So now I have all of these have 8 out of 10 and 80%. They're all marked complete. And you also notice that it created attendance records for each one of these days as well, because I marked it complete. So again, the list view is really powerful in that you can do a lot of editing here. You can quickly at a glance see a lot of information. So between moving back and forth between the calendar and the list view, I think you'll find there's a lot of flexibility between those two options. Okay, great. So let's jump back here and see where we're at. Just to recap, we created single and multiple assignments. We added grades to those and we marked them complete. And we did that from the calendar view and the list view. Okay, let's move on here. Sorry, my throat is really dry. Excuse me. The lesson plans. So lesson plans are a really popular feature. But I want to just stress that lesson plans are optional, right? You don't necessarily need to use lesson plans in your homeschool. They're very popular, but they're also a little bit more advanced. But let's talk a little bit about what they are. So lesson plans are really a sequence of items that have not yet been scheduled as assignments. So if you think about a lesson plan, it might just be, all of the things that may be assignments eventually are just organized in a lesson plan ahead of time. So this is great if you wanted to plan out everything in advance in great detail, or if you have a predefined curriculum. Like let's say you purchased a curriculum off the shelf and it already had a lesson plan in it, or you're just going to follow along with the book. Lesson plans are great for that. The nice thing about them is that they're also not tied to a particular student or a date for that matter. So that means they can be reused over and over again throughout your homeschooling career. So if you have, say, an older student and they have a lesson plan for freshman biology, when your younger students get to that class, you can just use that same lesson plan for them and not have to recreate all of those assignments, which is awesome. And then lesson plans that, because they're not tied to a particular student, that means they can also be shared and imported using our shared lesson plan library. So the shared lesson plan library has literally hundreds, if not thousands, of lesson plans that other users have created. Most of them are based off of off-the-shelf curriculum, and you can go ahead and import those into your account and use them. And this is also great if, for example, you're part of a group or a co-op or even a small school or something like that. You can share your lesson plans with other members of your group. Okay, so excuse me, we're going to do a quick demo here, and we will see an example lesson plan. Because I think once you see it, it'll really help to make it easier to understand what they are. We'll create a simple lesson plan. We'll import one from the shared lesson plan library, and then we'll schedule the lesson plan to create assignments, and we'll discuss presets as well. So let's jump back over here and go to the lesson plan screen. Now, if it's your first time in here and you don't have any lesson plans, you won't necessarily see what I'm about to see, but you would create a lesson plan from here. So first off, it looks a lot like the agenda list view, right? The exact same paradigm, same columns. This is where your items will go. On the left, instead of green, it's purple, and this is where all the filters are. So just keep that in mind. So it looks a lot like the list view because we're using the same kind of paradigms here. But if I wanted to load up an existing lesson plan, I'll just click on the lesson plan link here. And again, this is a smart entry field, so I can just hit the space bar and see all my lesson plans. I'm going to load up this Abeka arithmetic one. And here it is. So you'll see day one, we're doing lesson one. Day two, we're doing lesson two. Day three, lesson three, etc. When we get to day 12, we do a test, and we also do another test. One's oral and one's written, I'm assuming. And then we get back on to lesson 13 through 16, and then another test. And if we scroll all the way to the bottom, we'll see that on day 171, we're still doing lessons here. So really, this is an entire year's worth of curriculum, really, of lessons um, for this particular curriculum. It's 202 items total, and it lasts 171 days. So somebody took the time to add all this information in. I actually had imported this one from the shared library, but you can see that you could plan out your entire year using a lesson plan. And the nice thing is you probably noticed that there's no date here. So you're not tied to a specific date. Day one does not have to be September 1st or something like that, right? Day one is really just the first day that you decide to use this lesson plan. And then the second day that you decide to use this lesson plan, or essentially schedule it, this is the assignment, or this is the item that your student would do. On the third day, they would do this one. On the fourth day, they would do this one. So again, day one doesn't mean Monday, day two doesn't mean Tuesday, day three doesn't mean Wednesday. It's really just the first day that you pull from this lesson plan, the second day you pull from this plan, the third day, etc. So another way to describe it, you can almost think of lesson plans as like a hopper for lessons, right? And so when your student's ready for another lesson, you go to the lesson plan hopper, you grab the next one, and then they start working on that. If they're moving really fast, right, and they could do two in one day, go ahead and grab the next one, and just keep doing that. If they need more time, no problem. You can just slow down, all right? And you don't have to grab the next one, and you don't have to necessarily reschedule a lot of things, because since these aren't assigned to a specific date at this point, you don't have to be tied to a specific date. So that's really what a lesson plan kind of looks like. Let's go ahead and create one. I'm just going to go ahead and do add, do add multiple. And lesson plan here, because we had that Abeka one open, it's thinking that I want to add assignments or add items to that, but rather I want to create a new one. So I'm just going to type in a new name, sample plan, and we'll create a subject course for this, Ancient History 1. We'll call these lessons. We'll go ahead and pick a book, and let's say they're all worth 10 points. And you'll probably notice this wizard here looks a lot like the add multiple assignments wizard. That's because it's essentially the same thing. We just don't have a date. We're not picking students yet, nothing like that. So now I'll continue to day numbers, and I'm going to start on one, increment by one, so that each day will be a new item. And then we'll do PLC, and I'll do a one-part increment. And we'll just call this lesson 1, and we'll end with lesson 10. And we'll increment by 1. So if I go to preview, we can see a preview. So day 1 through 10, lesson 1 through 10. So that looks good. I'll go ahead and select all of these, and then choose accept selected items. And I'm still on the Abeka plan here, so I'm going to go ahead and load up that sample plan. And there we go. I now have a 10-day lesson plan for Ancient History 1. And this is it. So now I could use this with my students and just schedule each one of these days whenever I like. What I'm going to do, though, is I'm going to add a day 11 for a test. So I'll just do add single and do Ancient History 1. We'll call this a test. We'll make it worth 100 points. I'll go ahead and save that. And so here it is up here at the top. I forgot to designate a day number for it, so it gave it day 0, which is why it's at the top. So let's go ahead and edit that, and I will change this to 11, and then click Save. And so now I have 10 days of lessons, and on the 11th day, we do a test. So you can see how really quickly I was able to create 11 days worth of lessons that I can now use for Campbell or any other student, and I can even save this and use it down the line. Now, I can keep repeating this process to add on to this lesson plan, make it, 180 days or however long I want. And I could even do that, and a lot of folks do this at the beginning of the year or at the beginning of a new term. They'll spend a little bit of time to create lesson plans for all of their curriculum, so that as they're going throughout the year, you don't have to like really think too much about what do we need to do next, or what is there a quiz coming up or anything like that. You can just go straight to your lesson plan, and you know that you've already done that hard work, so that you can just pull out the next thing for your student to do. And so, if lesson plans are of interest to you, I would definitely recommend checking out that lesson planning webinar right here, because we did go through some really advanced techniques on how to create lesson plans. So definitely check that out if you're interested. Cool. So that is a very simple lesson plan that we created. So let's go ahead and import a lesson plan now from the shared lesson plan library. So if I go ahead to the shared lesson plans right here, we can go ahead and I'm just going to go ahead and enter in a blank search so we can see all of the items. And so you can see here, there are literally hundreds. I think there's probably over 1,000 now lesson plans already in this library that you can import into your account. And the majority of them, I would say, are based off the shelf curriculum. So, Easy Grammar is a curriculum series. Explode the Code, all of these are in here. So, people have taken the time to create these lesson plans and then share them with the community. So if you have curriculum that you purchased, for example, definitely check to see if there's a lesson plan in here, so that you don't have to create one on your own. And it might not be exactly what you want to use, but it could be a great starting point for you to edit to make it work for you and your homeschool. Um, but I'm just go ahead and I'm going to search in here for reading, and I'm going to pick up this Usborne First Reading Level lesson plan. And so this is 15-day lesson plan, and you can see that there's an activity for child read aloud. It has different resources in here, and the PLC for each one. So this looks great. I'm going to go ahead and prepare this for import. This is going to get it ready for me to import into my account. So first thing, I have to give it a name. So I'll just call this reading 1. And then I can select all the items to import them. Now, before I do that, I just noticed here that for subject course, it just says language arts. So if you remember when we talked about subjects and courses, that means this is just for the subject language arts. And so I could import this and then change it after the fact, but I can also do it right now. So I'm going to choose Action, Multi-Edit. I'm going to change the subject course to Language Arts / Reading 1, so that I'm assigning this to the course Reading 1. I'll click Save. Great. So now when I import it, it's already ready to go for me. You'll also notice that there's these asterisks here, and it says new next to all these activities and then against all these resources. And that just means that I don't have those items in my account. So it's going to go ahead and create those for me, which is great. So all of these resources will be created in my library for me. I don't have to go out and input that information on my own. So I'll go ahead and click Accept Selected Items. And now here we go. We're in the Reading 1 lesson plan. And here are those 15 days worth of lesson plan items here in my account. So pretty quickly and easily, I was able to import a shared lesson plan, and now I could go ahead and use it. Okay, so let's go ahead and use it, and I'll show you how to schedule the lesson plan. So let's say I want to go ahead and schedule 5 days from this lesson plan, the next 5 days. So I'll just go ahead and select 5 items here, the first 5 days here. And I'm going to choose Action Scheduler. Now, you could just schedule 1 day, totally fine. And you could do that, from a workflow standpoint, every day, just go in and schedule 1 day at a time. Totally fine. You could schedule 5 days, you could schedule 10 days, however many you want. I would definitely recommend only scheduling 1 week or 2 weeks at a time at the most. It can be really tempting to go ahead and schedule your entire year all up front, but I wouldn't recommend that, just because you kind of limit your flexibility then in terms of rescheduling or going faster or slower depending on your student. And that's really the advantage of a lesson plan, is that you're not tied to a date. So to basically take a lesson plan and then immediately tie it to a date, kind of limits your flexibility. So, I would say only schedule a week or 2 weeks at a time at the most, and I think you'll be better off in the long run. So go. We are scheduling this, so I'm going to schedule it for Campbell, and we're going to schedule those 5 items from the Reading One lesson plan. So let's go ahead and continue to day and date, and I am going to pick a start and end time of, let's do this from 1 p.m. to 3 p.m., and we'll have the start date be today, and continue until all the selected items in the plan are used, and we'll have it happen every day. So again, go ahead and continue to preview. And so now day one will be Monday, day two will be Tuesday, all the way through Friday, and this will happen from 1 to 3. So I'll go ahead and select these and then choose accept selected items. Great. So now if I go to my calendar, you'll see that we have those ancient history lessons that we worked on earlier. And now I have these reading one child read aloud lessons, or assignments, I should say, already scheduled. So, you could think about this a couple ways, right? From a workflow perspective, if you had lesson plans created for all of your courses, every week, say Sunday night, you could just go in and schedule your lesson plan items for your students and create all the assignments that you need. And then the next week, go ahead and do the same thing. And Homeschool Tracker will keep track of where you are in your lesson plan. It'll let you know which items you have already scheduled and which items you have not scheduled yet. I'll show you how that works here real quick. So if I go back to that lesson plan, this is that reading one plan. If I go to displaying, right now it's displaying all items, but if I change this to used by student, and I select Campbell, and I can show the status of both, meaning has it been used and unused, or I could just select one of these. I'll just show you both right here. And that adds a couple columns here. So now it's showing that these first 5 items were used, yes, for used, and it tells me what date they were used as well. So now, the next time I wanted to go in here and schedule items, I could just quickly look and be like, okay, so we've already used these 5, so this one is my next one to schedule. And that's just a nice feature to help you keep track of where you are in your lesson plan um, as you're scheduling items. So that's how you would schedule a lesson plan kind of on an ad hoc basis. You could certainly do that and have it be part of your workflow. But there's another feature I want to show you. And it's kind of what I call our advanced scheduler. So if you go to the menu to the lesson plans and presets page here, this page will take just a little bit longer to load, because what it does is it gives you the ability to set active lesson plans for your students. So this is Campbell, and she has looks like 6 lesson plans in here that I have set as active for her right now. I'm going to go ahead and add that reading one plan as well. And the nice thing about this advanced scheduler, here's reading one, I'll just turn that on, is that you can schedule more than one lesson plan at a time. And you can do that with what we call presets as well. So now I'm going to jump to the presets for Campbell. And immediately you'll kind of recognize this. This looks a lot like the calendar view. But what it is are each of these blocks here represents a designated time or a preset time for that particular course. So I've set up Ancient History 1 to happen every day from 9 to 10, spelling from 10 to 11, arithmetic from 11 to 12 on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And then on Tuesday, we do grammar, physical science, and then math. So I'll go ahead and add another preset. We'll make this for reading one. We'll do a start time of 3 p.m. end time of 4, and we'll have that go for Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There we go. So now I have a preset for reading one. So now if I go to the scheduler, we can select which plans we want to schedule. And so this is where the real power comes in. And that's why we call it kind of the advanced scheduler. So I can select any or all lesson plans that I have set up for Campbell. I'm going to go ahead and select these 7 lesson plans and choose continue to day and date. And now under the day options, remember before I was just scheduling items every day, kind of doing this whole thing. But now I can choose this option here called preset, which will use those preset times. It'll basically look at each one of those lesson plans and it'll match up the subject course in those lesson plan items with the presets that I had for those lesson plan or for those courses. And it'll schedule each of those lesson plan items at that preset time. And I'm going to go ahead and set a start date for next week, the 22nd, and I will continue until the 26th. So basically, I'm going to schedule 5 days just next week, but I'm going to do it with 7 lesson plans, and I'm going to do it using those presets. So let's continue to preview. And here you go. So I have 46 assignments that I'm about to create from those lesson plans, and you'll see I'm on day 94 of Ancient History 1, and that's going to be Monday from 9 to 10. And then we do spelling from 10 to 11. And let's find, here's reading 1. That's on Monday from 3 to 4. And then it moves to Tuesday and assigns a bunch of items here. Here's reading 1 on Tuesday from 3 to 4. So, with just a few clicks, right, I'm able to create 46 assignments based off of 7 lesson plans at all pre-designated times. I'm going to select all of those and just choose accept selected items. And now it's going and it's creating assignments for all 46 of those items, adding them to Campbell's agenda. Okay, so now if I go to my calendar view and we go to next week, there you go. So now you can see here are 46 assignments, all at very specific preset times, all from 7 different lesson plans scheduled for Campbell. So you can see, kind of really the power behind that advanced scheduler, where, if we had, from a workflow perspective, we have all of our lesson plans set up, we have presets set up, I could go in here every Sunday night, click a few buttons and generate this really advanced agenda for Campbell very quickly. And then at the end of the week, go in here and add grades, mark these complete, and kind of do that again for the next week. And that is a very popular workflow. It's definitely more advanced because you need to do a little bit more work up front by creating all those lesson plans. But you can see how it'll save you a lot of time if you're willing to do that work up front. So that's how you would use the advanced scheduler with presets to kind of really speed up your workflow. Okay, so very quickly, let's just talk a little bit about reports. So as I mentioned before, reports are PDFs that you can save, print, or send. And the daily task list, this is a great report to use on a day-to-day basis. So let's look at that really quick here. So if I go to the daily task list here under reports, I can, choose my options here. But what I'm going to do is I'm just going to choose the 22nd through the 26th. The daily task list it'll generate this PDF basically that has all of those agenda items for each one of these days, the 22nd through the 26th. And there's a bunch of different items or options here, I should say, that you can certainly experiment with. But generally, it's kind of set up for the default. I'm going to do this for Campbell and for all subjects and courses. And so I'm going to go ahead and generate this report, and then I'll pick up the report. And what that does is it basically downloads a PDF file to my downloads folder. So I'll go ahead and open this, and I'll kind of zoom in for you. And here it is. So this is the daily task list for Campbell for these dates. And on Monday, she's doing Ancient History 1. It has all of the assignment information, the PLC, the directions, etc. And then here's Tuesday's agenda, Wednesdays, Thursdays and Fridays. So we have a full week's agenda spread across 4 different pages. And so I could print this out. I could put it on a clipboard or up on a bulletin board, to reference throughout the week. So really a popular report that a lot of folks use on a day-to-day basis. Transcripts and report cards, these are other reports, and those can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a course. We won't go over those right now, but we'll likely have a more in-depth webinar just for those kinds of reports, probably closer to the end of the year, end of the school year, I should say. But again, if you have any questions on that, feel free to check out the help section or shoot us an email, and we would be happy to answer it for you. Okay, so just to recap a little bit on workflows. Now we talked about these kind of throughout the evening, um, but you could certainly create and complete single assignments on a daily basis. That is a great way, especially if you're just getting started. Lesson plans, while they look really fancy and are great, they are a little bit more advanced, right? And do require more work. So I would definitely recommend, if you're just starting out, just try starting just by creating single assignments on a daily basis. If tomorrow you're doing homeschool, right after this, maybe just create a few assignments for tomorrow, um, and just get the feel for how that works and how what type of information you want to put in those different fields. And that is certainly a perfectly acceptable acceptable workflow. I know there are a lot of users that have been using Homeschool Tracker for a very long time, and they still kind of use that process. And again, that's also a great thing to do if you are more of an unschooler or you're not really into planning necessarily. You could go in after the fact and create assignments for the day that you just had or the week that you just had, and that helps you get into the practice of logging all of your information so that you can generate those reports down the line. And then we also talked about a workflow of using lesson plans. And that could be, you know, a lesson plan here or there, or it could be lesson plans for all of your courses. It just really depends on how you want to organize things. And then you could schedule those lesson plans, one item or a few items at a time. Or you can use our more advanced scheduler, right, and create presets and schedule, 5, 6, 7, 10 lesson plans at a time. So lots of different options. And again, keep in mind that, you know, whatever works best for you in your homeschool is best for you in your homeschool, right? Just because these are a few workflows that we've seen a lot and that we know are effective. You could certainly do a hybrid approach here. You could use it in a totally new way. I love seeing how a lot of users take these tools and they get creative with them and they do lots of different things with them. So we're always discovering new ways to use this really open platform to make our homeschools more efficient. Okay, so we do have some time for Q&A. If you do have a question, feel free to submit it. You could just go ahead and click on that Q&A button there in your viewer and go ahead and feel free to send a question. And I'm more than happy to stay on as long as we need to answer any and all questions you may have. So feel free to go ahead and submit any questions you may have. I'm just going to look here to see, while we're waiting for folks to submit questions, if any had come in ahead of time. Sometimes folks do that. Let's just see here. But again, feel free to submit any questions you may have. I know we kind of have a light audience tonight. It is a holiday, I realize. But let's see. Okay. Doesn't look like there were any. So somebody did ask to go over transcripts, and they submitted that question ahead of time. Just looking here. Is there any way of... Okay, so since somebody did ask about this transcripts, let's go ahead and just spend a little bit of time looking at it. I'm kind of going ad hoc here, but so as I mentioned before, transcripts and report cards, for that matter, can be generated as long as you have at least one completed and graded assignment in a particular course. So in this account, this kind of test account, I don't have any. Well, I have a few completed and graded assignments that we did earlier tonight. But let's go ahead and just look at next week's agenda. And maybe what I can do is just grade these really quick and generate a transcript. So these are those 46 items here. None of them are graded or marked complete right now, but let's go ahead and do that. Let's just select them. We'll just do a multi-edit. And let's say they were all worth 10 and we earned 9 points on all of them. Oops, and then I also want to mark them complete. So I'll just do mark as complete. Okay, so now I have a whole bunch of assignments here and we have 90% on all of them. So our transcript will look a little boring, but we'll see if this works. So if I now go to transcript, full page, and we choose Campbell, let's go ahead and just generate it and see what we get. Now I'll go ahead and pick up the report and open this. So there we go. So here is my official transcript. We only are showing semester 2 because the only assignments for Campbell right now are the ones that we just created tonight, which happen to be in semester 2. So for Ancient History 1, she's getting an 86.67. And then for all these other courses here, it looks like she's got 90 because those are the grades that we just put in. And so this is actually where it's really um, important to understand the differences between subjects and courses, because when you start to look at a transcript, this is where subjects and courses really come together, right? So these kind of headers here in bold, history, language arts, math, science, those are our subjects, right? And the smaller items here, ancient history 1, grammar, reading 1, spelling, those are our courses. So, all of that hard work that we did at the beginning, right? Setting things up, organizing our subjects and courses accordingly, making sure all these things are kind of lined up properly. It's all for this. It's all so that when we go ahead and hit that button to create a transcript, it comes out exactly like we would expect, right? And that's what we see here. So, that's really how easy it is to create a transcript. Um, there's not much more to say about it, but it is, the most kind of questions we get about transcripts tend to be, oh, my grades aren't showing up correctly, or this doesn't seem right. And it all goes back to making sure that not only are your subjects and courses organized correctly, but that then the assignments that you're creating for those subjects and courses are assigned correctly. So, um, that's why it's important, when you're looking at your assignments, that right here, the subject and course is designated to the correct thing, right? Because if this is wrong, or if it's pointing to the wrong thing, when we go ahead and create the transcript, um, it's not going to show up correctly, right? So, all of that hard work that you put in, I'm sorry, I lost it here, is all for this. And so that's how easy it is to create a transcript. One thing I'll show you too, now that we have a bunch of grades in the system, and we still have some folks online, one thing you can do to kind of either troubleshoot a transcript or just to kind of see all of your grades at a glance is check out the grading overview. So from the main menu under students, you can click on grading overview right here. And you can choose your student and the school year, and you'll start to see, and this is essentially what we just saw in the transcript, right? You can see all of her courses and her cumulative grades for those courses. You can also see it broken down by term. We don't have any graded items in term 1, but in term 2, we have a bunch here. And if you wanted to drill down even further, you could just click on one of these and it'll take you to all of those grades for that particular course. So if I click on the grammar one here, I can see that I have 4 assignments that have grades in grammar, and they all have 90%. And I could, this is a great way too, if you're like, oh man, my grades aren't adding up right, you can kind of jump in here and just double check everything and make sure it's the way that you want it to be. um, if I just change some of these, let's just change this multi-edit. I'm going to change it from 8 to 7 just to shake up the grades a little bit. So now she's got 90s and 70s. I can go back to the grading overview and see now her grade is an 80 now because I just changed those grades. We can look at arithmetic grades here. Let's say I wanted to change this one. I'll change this to 7.5 or 7.6. There you go. Return to the grading overview. And so now that's been updated. So now if I were to generate the transcript, it'll look a little bit different. And there you go. So now I have an 85.33 in math, or in arithmetic, I should say, and an 80 in grammar. There are also a few different kinds of transcripts. So you may have noticed from the report here, I've been using the full page example, but there's also this columns example. So let's go ahead and choose that so you can get a sense of what that looks like. And really it just organizes the information slightly different. So you'll have, this is great if you are showing multiple school years at once. So we only have one in our account here, but you'll see it here and you would see like another school year over here. And then down here, you'll see kind of more information. And then there's also the combined, which kind of combines the columns format with the full page format. And that looks like this. So you've got the columns here, and then, oh, you know what? I have, let's see. Oh, I see. So because I only have like half a year in here, it's trying to calculate a cumulative GPA, which I just needed to change my settings. So anyway, you can start to see how these are set up a little bit differently. But generally speaking, I like this one. I like the full page transcript. It's much easier to read for me, and I like seeing the semesters broken down and all this information here. But that's just a basic kind of quick look at transcripts. While we're in here, might as well show you a report card too. So let's choose report card, and I could, let's see, I'll just go ahead and generate this for Campbell. And report card is very similar to a transcript, but credit units aren't displayed on the report card. It also it shows you attendance records if you like, but you can see here the grades for Campbell. And it's not necessarily organized the same way, so it just kind of shows it, the subject course. They're ordered together, but it's not the same format as a transcript where you saw kind of a header and then all the different courses. All right, so let's see, any other questions come through? Amy mentioned, thank you. You explained the lesson planning very clearly. I sat through many webinars and playing with Homeschool Tracker. Tonight, the light bulb finally came on. I really do appreciate Amy for answering all my questions via email. That is so great to hear. Amy, we really appreciate you as a customer. And I'm so thankful to hear that, that the light bulb came on, right, for lesson plans. And so that's awesome to hear. So I know that it can be kind of a bigger topic to grasp, and it does take a few times to really kind of get it. But once you do, I think it all kind of comes together and it makes a lot of sense. So definitely thank you for your comment, and we really appreciate you as a customer. Okay, so I think that's it. No other questions have been coming in. Definitely a little quieter tonight, but I really appreciate you guys for jumping on the webinar tonight and for learning a little bit more about Homeschool Tracker. Again, we will be posting a recording of this here on this page here, and we'll also email it to each of you. And like I said, if you have any questions at all, feel free to email us at support@homeschooltracker.com. We'd love to hear from you, and we'd love to help you out. So with that, have a great night, and hope to see you again soon. Thanks.